Could you even hear anything I was saying before?
I could not. Now I can hear you.
Okay, well then let me start all over for everybody because apparently I was unmuted but still muted. Hi, how are you? Anybody that's watching on Facebook Live, I'm not watching Facebook Live. I'm in here in the Zoom room, so use the Zoom link. I've been talking to no one. Um, so hey Becca, I asked what brought you to our session tonight?
I was just interested to see what you were going to talk about tonight.
Oh, fun. Well, I was hoping because I had talked to Deneen earlier in the week, and so we were going to kind of talk about trusting ourselves and our muscle testing, which is much easier to do when I have somebody who's kind of struggling with that, which Deneen expressed that she was. So if she jumps in and joins us, then I can get a little bit more into that. Um, but I know that you do emotion code and things like that too. So I would be interested to know how's that going for you? How do you feel about your muscle testing and trusting your muscle testing? Where are you at?
So I use a pendulum because I found that I did not trust my actual muscle testing like when I used my fingers. I didn't see a clear yes and no in a fast enough way that I felt like the pendulum worked much better for me.
That's awesome and also funny because I do double check with the pendulum sometimes. Like most of the time, I just trust muscle testing with my fingers, or I'll use the sway test. But sometimes I just get this feeling, and I'm like, oh, I don't know. Like when it's something specific or very important about my horses or something that I'm very emotionally attached to, like I'm attached to the answer about, I
Hmm.
would rather see the pendulum move
Hmm.
than, yeah. But I don't use it all the time because I think it takes too long.
Mm.
So it's funny that you're like, I think it's faster. And I'm over here like, that takes forever. uh, so have you considered just using the pendulum to double check your answers?
Yes, but I felt like that would take longer.
So how do you must and like I'm just having a conversation with you. Again, if you want to ask questions of me, I'm more than happy to answer questions. But I think I'm just getting your perspective and how it works for you, because I know you do it. So how do you use like your fingers? What are you doing with your hands that makes it seem like it takes longer?
So I tried like the ring in ring,
Yeah.
and I just like I feel like I'm always second guessing myself.
Gotcha.
Um, I had a friend that does it, and she does like almost like a sliding with her fingers. And I've tried a few different ways, and I don't feel like any way is comfortable for me or confident in the answers.
Have you tried the sway test?
Yes, that I've done, and I feel confident with that, but that would take way longer to do all my questions that way.
It's so funny. Like, okay, so then your pendulum work, then I'm going to assume like this is how I do it. So this is how I assume it works for you. And like, tell me I'm wrong because I'm thinking this takes forever. And you're like, this is so fast. So for me, when I use a pendulum, I'm getting a circle for a yes, and it stops moving for a no.
So mine's a little different. So mine is a like back and forth towards me is a yes, and then like a side to side is a no.
Okay. Okay. I was wondering if it was different because I could see how it could be faster if I was looking for a different, like sometimes it takes a minute for that circle to get going,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then I don't know, my screen just blacked out. I don't know. I'm assuming you can still see me.
You,
Whatever.
yes.
um, but it also sometimes it takes a minute for it to stop, you know? So it's like it takes like I have to wait and see what are we deciding? What's the movement? So, I mean, it kind of makes sense that maybe yours would be faster. Just go from here to here to side.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't see my hand because it's not up here. Sorry. But yeah, that's awesome. And I appreciate you openly sharing because there are so many different ways to do it. So finding the one that works for you is all that matters. I mean, if you wear a necklace, you can pull it off anywhere and create your pendulum situation, right?
Yep.
So that totally works. I don't wear necklaces very often. Every time I do, like I have an animal. It's always an animal that ends up ripping it off of me. So I just quit with necklaces. But yeah, so what I do is I use my fingers like fingers crossed. And it's kind of a slide, like you were talking about, where it's just like if they stay crossed, this is solid yes, no. So
Hmm.
it's really fast. And my sister was doing it that way, and I was like, "What are you doing?" Because I used to do the two rings. I used to do that, and yeah, I mean, I think for me with the rings, like what held me up with it was which side. I mean, if they're both strong, they're both strong. But it was always like, which side am I testing?
Mhm.
It was like I was in my own head about it.
Yeah.
It was weird. So, um, what would you say helped you the most get confident in muscle testing? Even though you're using a pendulum, it's still muscle testing. So, what would you say helped you to become confident in that?
Getting results through distance sessions because
So,
no
practice.
fake that. Yeah. Like
Yeah.
when I would get results and they weren't even there, and it's like, okay, yep.
Yeah, I like having sessions with people. Like so I do distance sessions where it's like a Zoom, like you and I, we're
Mhm.
sitting here and like I'll tell them things and they'll be like, yeah, how did you know that? I'm like, well, that was the whole point that we're here for. Like, I muscle tested. um, but it's also really fun. It's almost more fun when I do email sessions
Mm,
because then they're not in front of me. They can't confirm or deny, right? So I just get through and I do the whole session. And then I send them the report and they're like, whoa, wait a minute.
yeah.
How could you have known any of this? And I'm like, it's muscle testing, you know?
Mhm.
So that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, so normally what I do on these sessions is not even so much talk, right? It's well, I do when no one's watching or when no one's like here to participate. Um, but I offer work. I will do sessions. So I'm going to keep asking questions because you're here, Becca, and I can. So unless you tell me to stop asking you questions. um,
Okay.
so when you do just emotion code, yeah? Or do you do something else too?
I do emotion code and body code.
Okay, body code, cool.
Mhm.
Um, and I don't really talk about body code as much. I use body code. I chose not to get certified in it. My sister got certified in it, so I have behind the scenes information. Um, and I've done a lot of it for myself and for my own horses, but I actually chose not to get certified because it was a lot of work to take body code charts and I wasn't using them for people most of the time. So like to try and make it horse related,
Yeah.
it was a lot. So I don't use it um as written. So I didn't bother to get certified in it.
Mhm.
I kind of made my own deal, right? I had crafted my sessions to myself. Um, but I also do other things in my sessions, which is why I was asking, like, if you do anything else, because so in my sessions now, I have a really hard time keeping things to strictly emotion code. Will I do it? Yes. But it's hard. I feel like there's so much more that we can do. And so one of the things that I do now is I use, and I don't have any of them on my desk, of course, except for these. I use Oracle cards. So not tarot cards. These are tarot cards, but I use Oracle cards, and that has actually become one of my favorite things to add. Ugh, the deck is over there, and I want to grab it, but there's a deck called the Blind Spot, and it's like I think it's 78 cards. So there's quite a few cards and it's about things that as humans we would be missing.
Hmm.
So things like let me try and think of some. I can't. I'm just going to grab the deck. So just hold on. It's kind of a jerk of a deck to be honest. It tells you things that you need to know that you didn't want to know. So, things like your fear, your trauma, you're bypassing things, you're coping, you're in denial, desperation, shame, judgment, identification, bias, scarcity. Like, seriously, these are things we don't want to see, right? So it's literally called the blind spot. And while they're not particularly emotional words, they're emotional things. They're things that we are emotional about. And so I like to use this as a way to like hone in on what our session should be focused on. So if somebody tells me, Leanne loves me, she'll be okay with this. So I do a lot of work. Leanne and I exchange sessions often. And so if Leanne says to me, like she did, like my horse is being an asshole and he's spooking at everything, I was like, oh, okay, sure. I can come in and I can start doing work and saying things like, is there a trapped emotion causing or contributing to Ace's spookiness? And get a yes. And we can go all day, right? And just remove trapped emotions. But what I did instead, it's just intuition, instinctually, was I pulled cards. And the cards were really interesting because they led me to realize that Ace was having a problem seeing, which ended up needing cranial sacral work. Okay. Like his bones, there were misalignments or whatever. But that's a completely different session than just removing trapped emotions that might be contributing to his spookiness, which did need to happen, right? There were definitely some emotions there that needed to be released, especially after his interaction with Leanne and her frustration with his spookiness, because he was offended. He was like, she thinks that I'm just being an asshole, but I'm not okay. So it was an emotional issue, but it wasn't approached in the traditional way of finding the answer. So that's why I asked how you like what else you do. This isn't a certification. This is just like intuitionally, like it felt good to do it. And so, and like I know Leanne uses a little bit of the emotion code, and she does a lot of chakra clearing and meridian clearing and things like that. So I just was curious. And that's kind of where these intuitive healing sessions come in, where it's like, yes, I have the tool of the emotion code, but I also have all these other tools at my disposal. And I like to use any and all of them whenever I can, because we're here to get a job done, right? We just want to, we want to produce some healing. So, do you offer, this is becoming a little bit of a, what do you do, Becca? At the end of this, I might be like, this was an advertisement for Becca. That's fine. I don't care. Do you offer different types of sessions?
So, yes and no. Not laid out kind of how I saw yours, like in the email. I offer it in a way of people and animals. I don't like break it down to specifics how I saw in your emails.
Okay, cool. Yeah, everybody does it different. And I used to do that, but let's be honest, I will work for people. It's so funny because I'm like, let's be honest, I would rather work on horses. But realistically, I do actually enjoy working with people and helping them, especially when they're horse people. One, because we just get along better, right? Like I'm sure you recognize that too. Like your people are horse people. We are horse people. It just makes sense. But also because when we help the horse people, the horses just inherently are going to benefit from that. They go hand in hand. If the person is better, the horse gets better. So, um, yeah, interesting how everybody does things differently for sure. Is there anything that I can do for you tonight, Becca?
Hmm. I don't know. What do you want to do? Is there something you had in mind or wanted to try or
No, I mean, I offer these sessions to be for anybody in the group that wants to come in and get free work. If I'm here and I'm here. So if you wanted something, maybe something that for yourself or your own horses, where it's like, I've worked on this, but an outside perspective would be good. because that's why Leanne and I swap sessions, is
Mhm.
because we all do things a little bit differently. And sometimes as individuals, we have our own blind spots.
Mhm.
And so it's easier for somebody else to be like, hey, don't shoot the messenger. But yeah, so it's up to you. I mean, we're here. I can do it.
So I am kind of interested in the card that you pulled the other night. It was the like Guardian of Decisions, something like that.
Ooh, ooh, what was it? Um, Let me grab that deck. Hold on. The disadvantage of me doing video responses is there's not a picture that I can just go pull up and be like, oh, it's that one. Uh, Guardian of
Something about like decision making and
Guardian of it was a direction guardian, maybe. Choose your path. That sounds
could be.
close.
Hmm.
Let me see if I can, because I have a picture in the book, but it's not pretty and colorful. So let me see if I can find the picture that you can look at and resonate with. Larger than the book. Yeah. That.
Hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Let's reread it because I don't remember it. Okay. Connect with your deepest desires, then choose the path that will make your heart and soul sing. The Direction Guardian card represents the angels of direction. These amazing angels are the ones who come to us when we are at a crossroads and don't know which way to go, when we are unsure of what is right for us or of the bigger picture. They can help us know what is best for all involved. The direction cats, sorry. The Direction Guardian card refers to the vision of the Hebrew prophet Ezekiel, who is said to have seen an angel with 4 different faces. One is a child, one is a bull, one is a lion, and one is an eagle. These 4 faces show that angels can appear in many guises and guide us in many different directions, but always for our highest good. And this is the extended message. I don't think I read this to you, so let's see if this helps. Your path isn't set in stone, and your angels and guides have no expectations for you, nor should you have any for yourself. There are many directions you can take. None of them are wrong, as they all hold perfect opportunities to grow and learn. But life is to be enjoyed and savored. So if you know that there's a decision to be made, and particularly if you are feeling indecisive, choose the path you know is going to make you light up and choose with your heart. Does that help?
It does. So the energy work things are like on the side business. Like that's what I wanted to do for real, for full time.
Yeah.
But I haven't been able to make it into enough of a business for full time. And I've had a lot of setbacks lately, or people saying no to helping me make it full time. So that's why it's really interesting that that comes up.
It is. So when you say people are telling you no to helping you make it full time, what are you looking for from other people to be able to, and you don't have to get personal, just curious, like what is it that's holding you back? This conversation actually aligns perfectly with what we're going to talk about later this week during Tuesday Tales. So please, Becca, what's holding you back?
Trying to find a location to do it at where I can have um, people come to that location versus to my house and having strangers at my house. Like I'm trying to find a place to do it that people can come to with people and animals, the option.
So this is interesting. So you want, and you already do, you already offer this as an in-person thing.
Yeah. So I also do PEMF work, which is part of why I want the in-person option. So
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. I was gonna say, like, why in
yeah,
person?
why? Yeah, no, I would if it was just energy work, I would love to just do that at distance, but I do PEMF work too. So trying to find a location for that.
So, and what have you looked into in terms of locations so far? Like, are you just looking for something by yourself, or are you looking to potentially get in somewhere that already offers stuff?
I'm trying to get in somewhere that offers other wellness things so that we could help each other and support each other, promote eeach other.
Yeah.
I've looked at people options as well as like vet offices and just animal options.
How's that gone for you? Like the actual animal options, the vets and things like that. How have they received it?
Not well.
Yeah, I was curious.
Yeah.
Good for you for having the balls to ask. Like, quite frankly, I don't I won't say that I don't just talk about it with veterinarians, but I mean, even with even with the ones that like, there's one particular vet in our area that I'm like, you're amazing. He is an acupuncturist, a veterinarian, and a chiropractor, but he didn't just take a small certification for any of those things. Like, he went to school to be a veterinarian, and then he went to school and became a human chiropractor before getting the additional, like, he went above and beyond requirements, right? And also, like, obviously he believes in holistic care. Otherwise, he wouldn't have gotten all of that education.
Mm-hmm.
And he still kind of looks at me like, what the fuck, when I talk about massage in a like super therapeutic way. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
so all the other systems matter, but the muscles don't? Like, where are we at here, sir?
Yeah.
But so good for you for even trying that route. Um, and I say, don't stop looking, right? In fact, here's a special little exercise. It's a little silly, and that's what makes it so awesome. And I learned it from my coach, which is funny because we all, or at least like most of us who watched Disney as children, have already learned this method, and we never tried it. Write a Mary Poppins letter. Do you remember Mary Poppins? In the
Mm-hmm.
beginning of the movie, the kids write out their letter, like the advertisement for the paper. And it's like she has to have rosy cheeks, and she has to be nice, and she has to like to play games. And like, it was just this ridiculous letter that these kids wrote about the requirements for their nanny. And then Mary Poppins showed up. So write that out. What is the perfect scenario for you for an in-person location? What would make it just cherry on top perfection, Mary Poppins perfect for you to be in that situation? What kind of collaboration, with who, and like, what would the requirements be? How far is the place from your house? How easy is it for people to get to? Do you have your own entrance at this place? Do you just have your own office? Do you share a room with another person and maybe you alternate days? Or do you lease a building and share? You know what I mean? Like, get so specific and not vague, and not like, well, this would be, I like, this would be okay. No, like, Mary Poppins perfect. Rosy cheeks, song singing, fun and games, all of it. What's the kind of person that you share that office with? So, right, like, you get to describe where the office is, you get to describe what the inside of the office is, how often you go there, and who you are making this collaboration with. Maybe it's more than one person, but what kind of people are they? Do you guys go for lunch every Wednesday and wear pink? And have margaritas? Or, do you guys just pass in the night and it just works out? You're not looking for friends. Watch out. If you say you're not looking for friends, you will find new besties. Be on the lookout for that. But yeah, that would be my recommendation. Like, get super fucking specific about the fun parts, about all the cool things, like even the color of the walls of that place. Write it out. Allow it to be silly. Because when you become, like, when you put all that in your head, right? When we put all of the things that we're looking for in our head, our brains find a way to make it true. So it's like this whole thing. And this comes from Tony Robbins, and it's totally true. If you look around your room right now, you have, like, I'm going to give you 30 seconds. You're just going to look around your room and you're going to find everything in your room that is red. Okay? Ready?
Mm-hmm.
You got 30 seconds.
Okay.
Go. Find all the red in here. Okay. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Close your eyes. Tell me all the things you found that were brown. Yeah, it's a lot harder because you weren't looking for brown, right?
Yeah.
You can open your eyes. Now look around. How much stuff around you is brown? See some stuff that's brown that you didn't notice before?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when we're looking for things, our brain will find it. But if we're not looking, we won't even see it. So if you go and take the time, 5 minutes, 10 if you want to get really crazy, and you can write out all of the things that you really want. And your brain is going to be like, we're going to find that shit. It's just like the other one that I like too is even just thinking about like right now, we're going to have a conversation and I'm going to say, do you see any white cars today? And tomorrow you're going to go out and you're going to be like, white car, white car, white car, white car. That's the way our brains work, right? So give your brain an opportunity to do the job. Tell it what you want to find. I mean, I don't have to explain to you how it might be crazy, but energy work is a thing because you do it and you know.
Mhm.
So you get to call in that alignment. And then in terms of like making the decision too, like leaving, I'm assuming you have a 9 to 5 that you want to leave to do this full
Yes.
time. Yeah. That's scary shit. And I know that I don't have to say to you, ask me how I know, because I know that you know that I did it.
Mhm.
And it is scary shit. And it's still scary. It's still scary because you can find the location and you can, make the money that you need to make right off the get. Things can be really great. And then you're going to hit a spot where you're like, something happens, right? Because it's on you. It's on you. And it's not the same as having that 9 to 5 where it's like, oh, I had a family emergency and it's okay because I have, vacation days that they're going to pay me, or I have PTO days and I'm going to get paid even though I have this family emergency. Like, no, all that stops. You have to cancel your appointments and you're not getting paid this week. Right.
Mhm.
It's scary. It's also the best fucking thing I ever did. Allowing myself to be in that space of it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable. So, one of the things that I do is I meditate with my horses outside in the pasture every morning, rain or shine, cold or warm. And this is not something I would have started on my own. This is something that I started when I went to Wonder Camp, which was in the mountains of Lake Tahoe, where the elevation is ridiculously high. You dry out like SpongeBob coming into the shell shack where he came on land and he just like shriveled up. Like, yeah, I did that too when I went to the mountains. Um, and in the mornings, it's fucking cold. It's like 80 degrees during the day, 30 degrees at night. And we would get up. The time difference is there's two. So I was up at like 5 a.m. to go to the bathroom, but we were up and outside meditating and doing somatic exercises at 7 in the morning, which is stupidly ridiculously early because I'm self-employed. So I get up when I want to, and I don't do that 7 a.m. bullshit. And so we're outside meditating and it's cold. And I mean, like I dressed for it, but not like I didn't dress for 30 degrees. I didn't take my Michigan stuff. Like I had my pajama pants and a sweatshirt. And you just sit in it because it's uncomfortable, but you don't die. And learning to tolerate that kind of discomfort and putting myself in that same discomfort every morning. Some days it's blazing hot and I'm sitting out in the pasture. Some days it's freaking cold. Some days it's windy. Some days it's windy and cold and wet. And it's only going to get worse in the winter. I'm dreading it, but I'm also like, I can do hard things, right? It's those little things of practice of being uncomfortable and doing hard things and being like, I didn't die. That makes all the difference. It seems like they're not connected at all, but it's all connected. Separation is the illusion. And the way we do one thing is the way we do all things. So the way I start my day in being uncomfortable and being okay with being uncomfortable is the way I go through every moment of every day. I'm a little bit more okay with feeling uncomfortable. So, I mean, I can't tell you, well, it's just go do it and you'll make millions of dollars and it'll be fine. And just tell the job to F off. I can't give you like that kind of advice. But I can tell you that it'll be worth it. And really, the challenge is mastering yourself, mastering your own emotions, in a way that you choose to put safety into your body, and you choose to be okay being uncomfortable, and to be okay knowing that this is scary, but it's just different. That's what makes it scary. I think the biggest misconception when we leave our 9 to 5 is that things are just going to be hunky dory, and nobody's going to tell me what to do anymore. So I don't have as much stress in my day, but it's just a different stress, right? And everybody thinks that they have a good 9 to 5 job. It's guaranteed money, but it's not. It's not anymore guaranteed. So I quit my job and went out on my own. And less than a year later, that business was shut down. And everybody else that worked there was just SOL. But I had already left and set myself up. Like, it's not perfect. I'm not a millionaire yet. Right. But those people all lost their jobs, and it was the same job that job, it was like 8 months after I quit. Not even. It was like 6 months after I quit. 6 months after I quit, that job that had guaranteed money and guaranteed benefits, and my family was like, "What are you doing?" 6 months later, that job didn't exist anyway. And nobody would have guessed that job was going to just disappear. So, there's that little bit of it too. It doesn't line your pockets, and it doesn't make the adjustment any easier, but just know that there's going to come a point where you just know it's time to go, and you get to trust it, regardless of the way things look. And I think that's what that card is really saying. Like, there's going to come a point where the decision sits in front of you, and it's not going to matter. Like, you can keep putting it off, and you can stay at the job and all the things, but it's just delaying you. It's just a distraction. It's just slowing you down. It's just delaying you, because it's not going to change the outcome. You will lose that job one way or the other, whether you choose to or not. The job's going to go for whatever reason, and you get to trust yourself that you can make it, that you can make this happen, because then you're relying on yourself. And while that's really freaking terrifying, it's also really empowering, and it's a whole other level of safety, because I'm the only person that's never let myself down, because I show up for me all the time. I'm still here. I'm still alive. I've survived everything I've been through up to this point. And you've done the same. Nobody did it for you. Right? So at the time, like when we're in the 9 to 5 world, and that's the thing too, like, the sooner you start adjusting your 9 to 5 mindset and starting listening to people that talk about getting out of the 9 to 5 mindset, and even people that just talk about what it is, the sooner you start hearing that, the easier your transition is going to be, because we don't realize how programmed we are until you leave. And then you're just like, what? That's my 9 to 5. I didn't realize I didn't realize I even thought that way. It's ingrained in us from school. Growing up and going to school is very much about teaching you how to be a good employee. And so there's a lot of things from childhood that you're like, oh, that doesn't serve me as an entrepreneur. That doesn't serve me right now, So the sooner you get in on that mindset change, the easier the transition will be. And there's still things. I'm 2 years out, and there's still things that I'm like, that was very 9 to 5, especially when it comes to like having to do your own thing. Like, you're in charge of your marketing. You're in charge of obviously delivery. You're in charge of all the things that run on your back end, your website, all that stuff. It's all on you. And if you don't do it, no one's doing it. Right. And so, like, then there's that 9 to 5 mindset of like, well, I've already done so much today. My time, I'm only dedicating 3 hours a day to my business. My 3 hours is up, but I still don't have a sales page, or I still don't have a sales link or whatever. And it's like, well, the money's not coming in until that link is done. So you better go do that. Right. And it's like that whole idea of like entitlement, but the time is up. I should be free. For me, it was like just simply switching it. I talked to Leanne about this a lot, and she told me the other day, she's like, I do the fun things, but not always first. As in, like, she's just doing fun things. And I was like, well, stop complaining. It's fun. But what I tell her is do the fun things first. Right. Because, we always want to be free after work to do whatever. So it's like, instead I do my whatever first. I want to go play ponies. I'm going to go play ponies. And then I sit down and do the hard things, the things I don't want to do, the stupid links and the pages and whatever. But yeah, So when the time comes, you just get to make the decision, and that you can just trust yourself to know that you can make that decision and that you can count on you because you've got yourself this far. So that's my advice. I hope that helps.
It does.
Good, good. Because obviously you trust yourself enough to do muscle testing for all these other people, and you see all the things work out, it can work out for you too. Like, and I say that to you from a place of like, I don't always believe this in myself. Like, that's one of those things too, like 9 to 5 where it's like we self-deprecate a little bit because heaven forbid we get cocky, right? Or conceited, where it's like, well, yeah, I did that for them. Right. You did that for them. So you could do that for you. You did all this muscle testing to figure out what was going on for them, and you can do all of that for yourself. So in terms of business, like I muscle test things. Like it is in my best interest to offer these sessions. Yes or no? It is in my best interest to charge $95 a session. Yes or no? Right? Like, because sometimes I think I get really caught up, and I don't think it's just me. I know it's not just me because I've worked with other people slightly different, right? Because I have the Grow Your Equine Therapy Business program. And so in that, I've seen other people do the same thing where it's like we just second guess ourselves and we're like, well, I don't know what to charge. Yes, you do. You do. Let's muscle test it. Let's find out. We charge more than $50? Yes or no? If we get a yes, okay, cool. We charge more than $70. Yes or no? Okay, cool. Right. And then, especially when we're talking about like what we charge and getting yes and no's, some of that comes back to a belief system. Like, can we do some belief work around this now? Can we clear emotions that make it easier for us to accept our own value? Right. Like, there's a lot of work that can be done. There's so much work that can be done around all of that. But, hey, Natasha, if you can hear me, I don't know if you can hear me yet. I know you just got admitted. So if you're there, feel free to pop in with your mic if you'd like, or you can type in the chat, whatever works for you. Works for me.
Hey,
Hey, how are you?
good. I finally got it. I've been trying like for half an hour to get the Zoom thing to work. I finally got it.
Technology's a bear. Well, I'm glad you're here. Do you have something that you'd like to have addressed tonight?
Um, just I guess some questions about Enola,
Oh,
because I
okay.
know you did a motion code on her for her last session. And she has been better
Oh,
for
good.
sure. She hasn't been pulling her feet away from me as much, and she's been more willing to engage. When I was writing her last week, though, I don't know. She's off, and I'm trying to figure out if it's her body or her mind that's off. She didn't want my legs to touch her at all. Like when I took my legs completely off of her, she visibly, or like she just like, oh, thank God, kind of.
Okay.
And
Um,
then like, go ahead.
how is she with her itching? How's she been? Better?
It's been better. Now that the bugs are mostly gone, she's not nearly as itchy as she used to be.
That's good. Okay. Continue then. Sorry for interrupting.
It's okay. And then just like little things, like when I would say like, let's go this way, she'd be like, no, I really want to go this way. And I'm like, no, let's go. And then she would, start to get her sassy self, or like I'd ask her to trot. And she actually, because I was riding bareback, she managed to get me off because she's like, no, I really don't want to.
Oh, goodness. Were you guys at home when you were
Yeah.
riding? Yeah.
Yeah, just at home.
Okay. I get I get that it's both things for her. Right now it's her body and her attitude. Um, so what has improved? Because I know some of what you said is basically the same problem that we talked about with her just not wanting to listen, wanting to be
Mhm.
in charge. So what has gotten better? Tell me about that.
Um, she actually worked at Liberty with me for the first time in a really long time. And like I didn't even have to ask her to follow me. She would just chose to follow me through to the next thing that we were doing. And then, like I said, with the hoof picking, she used to be really, really bad about just like ripping her feet away from me or trying to kick me. And now she still does some, but it's not nearly as violent as it was.
Not nearly as violent. Good. Yay. Violence is bad. Um, okay. So did you, how many attempts at Liberty did you make, and did you spend time just sitting with her like we talked about?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did go out to the pasture. Like I just sat out there with my cup of coffee and did the meditation. And then just also trying to spend more time just not asking anything of her. Um, and then as far as like an actual Liberty session, there was one that's like that was the really like, wow, you're actually choosing to be with me and do this. And then I think we had like a few other tiny small sessions, but um that was mostly it.
Okay. So I think this is still a partnership to some extent issue. But let's just do a little bit of work on her attitude. Yeah, let's go trapped emotion route right now. So we'll just do a little bit of emotion code and then see where we go from there. And I'm going to message you about when I come out next too.
Okay.
We don't have to have that conversation right now, but yeah, I have to look at my calendar. I was kind of looking at this weekend, but it might not be till next weekend, which is probably
Okay.
good because I'm like, how did we get to November already? And I haven't messaged anybody. So anyways, okay. Okay. Quick clarifying question. Would you say that she is, because before it seemed pretty clear that it was her kind of being dominant, right? Would you
Mhm.
say that her lack of desire to cooperate with you, that's where my focus is right now. Would you say that that still feels like her being dominant or just sassy?
Um, hmm. Because it did feel different. Like her refusal this time, especially like with the steering, like I've ridden her bridleless and I steer her with my legs. And so like the sassiness was somewhat different in that like the fact that she wouldn't accept it any pressure at all. Um
Okay,
and
so that actually changes things for me a little bit. I mean, I still think she has an attitude, and I'm still gonna work on that, but that makes me think that she is probably a little bit like I know that I tested and it said that it was a combination of her body and her attitude. But if you're steering with mostly your legs and she's not cooperating and you could tell that she was like relieved when your legs came off, that says a lot to me. That it's her being like, even some of her wanting to go the other way is like, I'm not listening to your steering. Would you please understand that I'm trying to communicate with you that this isn't feel good, right? Like, because if you
Mhm,
just listen to all of your leg commands, not commands, but you know what I mean, your leg
mhm.
requests, then it would be like everything's fine. So I think that there's something to that. But I'm gonna move forward with that in mind, that she might be a little attitudey, but it's not that I don't think it's from what you just described. I don't think it's the same like battle for control that you were dealing with before. Okay. Six. Okay, so the first emotion that comes up is unworthy, and I just want to like preface this with the emotions that I'm coming up with that have to do with her attitude are not necessarily directly related to the entire situation. They're just an energy that is causing or contributing to the problem at hand. It doesn't mean that this energy was a product of the problem at hand. Okay, we don't need to know more about that. So we're just going to let that go. Okay, next. Okay, so there's 4 emotions that I don't need to know anything about. I'm just going to let them go. Let's get that out of the way. Okay. I was getting a no that we were done, and I was like, that's dumb. What? And no, there's more that there are hidden emotions, which is common. So they're things that they were hidden because it weren't something she really wanted to deal with. Essentially, it's a subconscious mind thing. So there's a hidden trapped emotion in column A, B, odd row, even row 2, 4. A hidden emotion of depression, frustration. That makes sense. So hidden frustration. We don't need to know any more about it, so we're just gonna let that go. All right, is there another trapped emotion? Hidden secret. Okay, so now I'm getting there's nothing. Yeah, I'm still getting there's nothing. Okay, let's do. Okay, I'm feeling called to pull a card, so we're gonna pull a card, and then my next step would be to do a little bit of emotion code work for whatever is going on in her body, which will be a good prep for actually getting physical work done.
Okay.
Sometimes we did some stuff on Loki, and I think I've done that. I don't remember if it was this is why I did it on Loki. I feel like it probably was because it makes sense for his story, but sometimes the emotional, I mean, we've talked about this, the emotional component of a person, force, being, whatever, can strongly influence their physical body, right? Like,
Yeah.
so sometimes in sessions, I'm not even able to get horses to release things, like muscularly release until we address the emotional components. So let's see, the first one. Why does this make sense for Nola? Why? The card is pushing them away. So the first thing that comes up is if you've drawn the sigil in this situation, you're pushing someone or something away that you shouldn't. Yeah. This is along the lines of what we talked about the last time, where it says, are you pushing someone away? Did I pull cards for her? I might
You
have.
did, yeah.
Was this one of them?
I don't think it was last time, no.
Okay. I was like, this sounds familiar. And this whole situation. So are you pushing someone away so that you can avoid the pain of them pushing you away? Are you pushing away their help? Are you pushing away their love? Are you rejecting someone? Are you demonstrating your disapproval towards someone? There's a lot of questions here. This is a longer write-up. But that does feel kind of in tune with what we were talking about the last time. Okay, I'll read this a little bit. If you've drawn the sigil, you may need intimacy, but you're terrified of it. Intimacy can be broken down into a 3-word phrase. Into me see. First and foremost, intimacy is to see into another, to deeply connect. So I think that's on track with what we were already going with from the last time. And we're just going to keep following along with that. I have a supporting card that came out with it. Let's see how close that is to what we've already done. Belief. If you've drawn the sigil in this situation, it is a belief that you are not seeing clearly enough that is in charge of you at this time. Okay, so this is something else that I'll dig into a little bit more for her before I see you guys. Like, I'm just going to mark this page and When I message you to schedule, I will tell you a little bit more and probably do a little bit of work around this. Um, but basically, this makes perfect sense. This makes perfect sense to support your original dysfunction. And I think that's why we got the first card where it's like she's pushing you away. Like that is exactly what was happening. And then this one this is a her problem to an extent. Sometimes we tell like it's a little bit different for animals, but on an energetic level, it is the same. Cognitively, it is different. But we tell ourselves stories, right? And sometimes when we tell ourselves stories, we believe the story we're telling ourselves. And that usually, it can be a good thing, right? I can tell myself that I'm the best body worker on the planet and no one is better than me. And that can be really great because that can serve me to be confident enough to go out and market and to talk to people and all those things. But it can also really limit me and make me look like an asshole, right? And same for them, where she could have this story, this belief, right? Like kind of when we were talking before, where it's like that she might believe that because you stop spending dedicated time with her, you don't love her, right? Like, I'm not saying that's what it is, but it could be something like that. And so we get to kind of unpack that a little bit. And with that belief, this is where the emotion code can come into it. With that belief, there can be trapped emotions that are supporting that story, right? So we can release those trapped emotions, which is going to give us a clear path essentially to change that belief pattern. And technically, when we talk about the issue with her not wanting to listen to your leg and seeming uncomfortable with your leg on her, that could be a centralized location for the trapped emotions. She could be physically manifesting pain there because of this belief and because of trapped emotions. So that's definitely I'm muscle testing, yes, that we're on the right path with that. So that's what I'm going to do is do I'm going to do probably 10-15 minutes of emotion code on her for that purpose. And I will send you, when I message you to schedule, I will send you everything that I release. I would love to stay on here and chat with you, especially because it took you so long to get in here. But I really have to go to the bathroom. So I'm gonna give you like 15 minutes of this, and like I said, I'll message you the results. But I think this is gonna set her up really well for her next physical in-person session.
Okay.
Anything else I should know before I do that?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I mean, after all of that happened, I did have lessons last week, but it was just me walking with her with people on her back in the woods. And she did by the last person, she was trying to bite me. And I know she was telling me, like, I'm done. We're over. With no more. So we're done. We're completely done with lessons for the winter. So
Okay, cool. So I think I'm glad that you did it again because that's very telling, right? Because then it just made it a little bit more obvious that that was dissatisfying to her.
yeah.
It helps. And then also I feel like being able to have winter which I know winter is gonna suck, but whatever it is, what it is, we're used to it, right? To grow your relationship and to solve this problem and to get more solid time with her. And then I know that your horses are my clients, Natasha, but I have a goal for you that you become confident enough to muscle test so that you can ask next spring, is Enola okay with lessons? Enola is okay with 1 lesson a week. Enola is okay with 2 lessons a week, right? I have that goal for you because I can see how much it'll serve you, your horses, and your relationships with them, and potentially your ability to make a little bit of an income to support your horse habit. I'm just saying.
I keep trying, especially like with her diet. Like I keep trying to better their diet and like I keep trying to muscle test. I'm like, I just don't believe that what I'm getting is right.
I love it so much. Thank you for your honesty. And that was really my intention for this call tonight. You didn't miss anything because Deneen was who I was hoping to come and have that real conversation with about trust, because we were kind of having a conversation in Facebook comments, and it's just not the same. As I can help a lot more when we have this face-to-face conversation, because what is it when we say that we don't trust our results with muscle testing? We are saying that we don't trust ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so what is it that you need to be convinced that you are a trustworthy person?
I don't know.
And yeah, I was gonna say, I don't expect you to have an answer necessarily.
Yeah. Other than, I mean, for a long, like, I don't know, like I'm closed off from a lot of my emotions anyway. So it's hard to like feel that inner voice when like I try to ignore it as much as possible.
Oh, yes. Like, yes. Thank you. Thank you for saying it. Thank you for being vulnerable and honest, because same. Like, that's where I was. That's where I like, none of the muscle testing, none of the emotion code, none of that stuff would have been possible for me if I wouldn't have started first with my own emotional regulation. So,
I remember, was it in your podcast or your Tuesday thing where you're talking about rage and the dragon?
I don't
And
know.
I was just sitting there going like, oh my God, yes.
That might have been the podcast. I don't know. I talk about it. I feel like I talk about it in a lot of places. But obviously it's something I could talk about a lot more. I definitely wrote a post recently about it too. Um, but anyway, yeah, I mean, it's a thing. We all get to work through it. And so one of the things that you can aspire to is to be the kind of person that you can trust to feel your emotions.
Hmm.
And that one's going to be hard at first.
Mm-hmm.
Because feeling emotions is hard. Being emotional is hard. There's this, and I know we're around the same age, so maybe, correct me if this wasn't your upbringing, but there was a certain part of, okay, so maybe, do you listen to any country music?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay. Have you heard Mama's Broken Heart, I think is what's called, by Miranda Lambert? Basically, she's talking about how really shitty things happen to her, and her mom's just like put on a smiley face, because it's all about, the face that you put out to people, right? It's all about looks. It's about how you look and how you present yourself. And that one gets me. And not because my mother was like that entirely. Like, I went through hard things and she was always supportive. But because by the time we get to the point in our lives where we're thinking about how we are presenting our face to the world and presenting our emotions to the world, by the time we get to that age, it's already too late. Because when we were really little, it was, if you want to cry about it, go to your room.
Mm-hmm.
Go process that shit by yourself. You're not allowed to be angry here. You have to do it over there by yourself. You're not allowed to be emotional. No crying, no anger, no tantrums.
Stop crying, stop crying, stop crying. Yep, I heard that one.
Yeah. I'll give you something to cry about, or tough kids don't cry, right? There were all of that, right? Like, it was just stuff it down, stuff it down, stuff it down. And it's not anything against our parents, because they just didn't know any better. They didn't know any better. And they still have their own shit to unpack from that, because they were raised in a similar environment. Kids should be seen and not heard. Like, no one ever told me that, but I know now that I believe that to some extent. Not intentionally. Like, it's just something that I recognize, that I'm like, oh, I'm getting irritated because I hear children screaming right now. That's not fair to the children. That's just my upbringing, right? Like, I was told that I shouldn't be seen or heard right now. I should go disappear. So yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. And it starts with just feeling your emotions and remembering too, like, the thing that I realized, if you haven't yet, you should get my ebook, From Outburst to Peace. Have you got that?
Okay. I don't think so.
Okay, I'll send you the link when I message you with all the things later. So you don't have to search for it. I'll just send it. I talk about that in there too, because the outburst of peace thing was where I started with emotional regulation. And like, I literally did a 90-day challenge in this group, walking everybody through what I did. And there were a lot of different layers. It wasn't all at once. But one of the things that I learned in an instant was, as soon as we acknowledge our feelings, like feel it, acknowledge, like validate it, acknowledge that it is legitimate and we have every right, like we validate it and be like, I am raging mad right now, but if somebody came to me and told me that they were raging mad and this is why, I'd be like, yeah, you should be. So like, as soon as we acknowledge and validate, that emotion just dissipates so fast.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
from someone too that also stuffed their emotions for a really long time, like that dissipation that happens really fast is great. But we then get to come back and choose to feel it too. Like expand it and make it bigger and feel it more. Because in doing that, that's where we become more familiar with the feeling. And that's where we start to understand our sensations, and what is a yes and what is a no becomes easier to recognize within our body, because we have spent time feeling our feelings.
Yeah.
And all I have to say to that is, it's not always fun, but it's more fun when you choose it instead of having no choice but to experience it because you're in the middle of an outburst. Okay. It's way more fun when
Mhm.
you choose it. And um you don't die. Turns out feeling feelings is not the worst thing ever. You live through it, believe it or not. So like, it's so interesting. I just had something come up. Oh, I know what it was. So I'm in a coaching group. So every week I do a mindset, an hour of mindset with a $1 million coach. She's amazing. And we were talking about rejection and basically giving ourselves opportunities to feel rejection. And it was so interesting to realize that I it wasn't just that I was avoiding feeling rejection, is that I was afraid to be rejected. I was afraid to act. It's because it's not even about being rejected in most cases. It's about just feeling rejected.
Mhm.
Because the people that reject us, we usually don't want them anyway. So, but the level of avoidance that I'm willing to go to in order to not feel rejection is a bit ridiculous when we think about, it's just a feeling.
Mhm.
Like, I'm not going to die, but the fear of rejection makes it feel like if I feel rejection, I will die.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of layers to it. Just start, feeling your feelings. And I think that the easiest way to go about that is, and I know like you're a mom and you're busy and you're doing a million different things at any given point during the day. But when a feeling comes up, this does not have to be a half an hour process. But just when you notice, right? Because awareness is the first step. If you're not aware of it, you can't fix it. And
Yeah.
obviously you're aware to some extent because you're like, I don't feel my feelings and I feel like this is the problem. Um, when you start to feel a feeling, your normal operating procedure is to stuff it down.
Mhm.
So instead, like as soon as you realize, the instant you're like, I'm about to stuff this down, or I'm going to avoid feeling this, touch your nose or tug on your ear or whatever. We just want to make a physical touch. I
Okay.
like touch your nose because it's a little bit silly, which kind of downgrades the emotion a little bit. But yeah, we're going to touch our nose and bring our attention to the fact that there's a feeling right here, right now, and we have an opportunity to feel it. And
Mhm.
this doesn't have to last forever. You can set a 30-second timer. You can set a 60-second timer. If you've got 15 minutes, you can set a 5-minute timer so that you have time to go to the bathroom and clean yourself up before you have to go back to children, right? But just take that little bit of time and ask yourself, what is the sensation I'm feeling right now? The physical sensation in your body. Get out of your head, because that's where the fear's at. Okay. Get out of your
Mhm.
head and come back into
Okay.
your body.
Mm.
What's the sensation that you're feeling? Is it warm? Is it tingly? Is it tight? Is it heavy? Is it light? You get where I'm going. What's the sensation?
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, if that feeling, right? Like you're like, I'm raging. This is the sensation in my body. this is where it's located. So what's the sensation? Where is it located? And if that feeling was a color, what color would it be?
Okay.
In the beginning, that might take you a few minutes to get through, but eventually it gets really fast. If you don't get any further because you're in the middle of 60 bajillion different things, if you don't get any further than where is this feeling in my body, that's fine. If you need to go in increments, that's fine. But that's where it starts, is like just taking a moment and recognizing like we're all in our head. We're in our head about the emotion that we're feeling and why we don't want to feel that emotion and how this is a bad thing. Bad things are happening. But really, we just need to tune into our body. There's nothing bad happening. We're not about to die, right? And maybe the thing that triggered the emotion is bad. And that's okay. And that's not necessarily a moment where we need to stop what's happening, like depending on the bad, right? Like if it's an emergency, we compartmentalize. We stuff the feelings and we move on, deal with the emergency and have to come back to it later, right? Common sense. But for the most part, we're just so stuck in our heads that we don't feel what's going on in our body. That's literally what we're saying when we're like, I don't feel my feelings. I just want to stay intellectual and stay in my head. So just take that time to kind of acknowledge what's going on in your body. Location of the feeling, the actual sensation of the feeling, the color of the feeling. There's more, and we can go deeper than that, but that's enough to get you started. I don't need to overwhelm you.
Once I actually can realize, oh, I'm feeling a feeling, then yeah.
Right, exactly. Touch your nose. Touch your nose. I'm feeling a feeling right now. Like that is okay. That is okay. That's a great place to start. But yeah, like that first time that I was like, I'm so mad. And then I was like, feeling like the sensation of like basically dragon breathing in my chest, like the flame is just going to come right out. You know, recognizing that and then being like, I'm mad because. And if I told this to my best friend, she would be like, yeah, girl, you should be mad. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, I'm not so mad anymore. It's like, because the feelings just want to be felt.
Yeah.
And once we feel them, that's that. Game over. But
Interesting.
anyways, I still really have to pee and now I've stayed on longer than I planned. So I will message you the Outburst of Peace book. I will message you some emotions that I released from Enola and a date. A date that I will see you again.
All right.
Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
joining me, and I will chat with you later.
Bye.
Bye.